Oh, hey. Hopefully, hopefully this is all live. Sometimes I feel that when I start these things, I never quite know if everything's going to work because I've had a couple of live streams where the microphone hasn't connected. That's a tense little moment, right? When you're not used to doing these. I think this is like my fourth or something, fourth live stream so far. But anyway, let's get up and running. Hello, Jenny. Hope you're well. Hope you're all right. Nice to see you. Just to give you a little idea, it's just gone past midnight. Hello, Brian. Welcome. Hello, Victoria. Thanks for logging in and joining us. It's like a little, coffee stop here. We're sitting chatting, right? Only the most uninspiring background that we've got going. Hey, Marina. Nice to see you. I feel like when I make these just now, because there's not a lot of there's not great furniture in the room. Kind of looks a little bit like like a hostage video. But it doesn't feel like that. Hello, Mark. How you doing? Good afternoon, mate. Yeah, so I was just saying it's just gone past midnight, right? Now, I'm going to say this. This could go two ways, right? Because about 20 minutes ago, Yvonne gave me a black coffee. Now, I would never drink coffee at midnight, but I felt like, yeah, this will probably last an hour, maybe an hour and a half. I'm in prison. That honestly, Mark, that's kind of how I feel. In other apartments, there's always been like plants and things like that around. There's not much in this room. So I'm just against that's actually the bathroom. That's the bathroom through there. So it kind of looks a little bit bare. So I am very mindful that it kind of looks a little Terry Waits when I do these videos, which is a reference that only the older crew will get. But yeah, so Yvonne's just made me a black coffee, which then means that either one of two things will happen, and that's either I'll crash because sometimes that has an effect on me that I actually go the opposite way and end up nearly falling asleep, or I will talk for like 3 hours and I've all need to pull the plug on all of this. Kyle, I like it when people get the reference. Where's the radiator? Yeah. Was it Boy George that also locked somebody up against? I was going to say George Michael. It wasn't George Michael. It was Boy George. Did Boy George not get done for free the Northampton one? Well, this live stream hasn't started as I kind of thought it was going to kick off, but that's the great part about live streams, them being a little bit interactive. Do you know? I sometimes watch YouTubers, right? When they're doing live streams, and sometimes I'm always not sure if it's really live or not. Whether they've just pre-recorded it and the chat's going on and maybe they're in the chat, right? I'm never sure. But also when they just start and deliver a message, right? I sometimes watch like finance guys and all that, and they just go straight into it and they're like, the S&P 500, and I'm like, whereas when I start, I like to just chat with people, maybe both. Yeah, yeah. Well, George Michael, did he crash into the Specsavers place? What was it? Happy Snaps. George Michael crashed into Happy Snaps, didn't he? And Boy George handcuffed somebody to a radiator. Well, those are two names I wasn't expecting to flash up when I started this live stream tonight, that's for sure. But yeah, so I've had the coffee, which is rare for me at this time of night. Yvonne has got me into recently drinking green tea, which at first I was like, "This is who drinks this, right?" But now I've actually started to quite enjoy it. A little green tea in the evening before bed. I mean, you're getting old, right? When you're immediately like, "Oh, I'm have a wee green tea before I go to bed." That's when you know you're definitely pushing on. Right, let me do a little bit of quick housekeeping, right? It's a bit like when you come to a business meeting, I have to tell you where the emergency exits are, just in case the fire alarm goes off. But a quick bit of housekeeping. Let me first of all say just a quick thanks to Omar, Tickety Blue, and George Matthews, who were super chatters last week and sent me a little thanks. So I just wanted to acknowledge that and go through those names. So thank you. And also to Betty Ball. That's the real name. John Ball messaged me on Facebook, and his mum Betty Ball, who watches these, sent me a little donation as well through PayPal. So I just wanted to take a minute and say thanks. So I appreciate all of you buying Yvonne and I a little coffee here and there. And then let me also say very quickly, thanks so much to everybody that's came across to Patreon. I have a membership over there and I make additional content. I post regular videos. I have a couple of different tiers. I get asked a lot of questions about stock options, what platforms that I use, and I'm building all of those kind of videos over there. Now, I get asked, why don't you just make it on YouTube? I'm a small niche channel, right? I have like 20,000 subscribers. That means nothing, right? I can post a video and typically it gets like 2,000 views. I posted a video last week, it got 500 views, right? They're niche topics. And sometimes when I go a little bit more into the number stuff, people just drift, right? People just aren't interested in that stuff. But over on Patreon, I can make quick videos and I can talk about these topics. So I appreciate people that have came across. And in the last couple of days, for example, I've talked about options that I've wrote on SoFi, how I manage the risk aspect of that, how SoFi is performing in the last couple of days, other stocks that I hold. And I've had some other questions come in from some of the subscribers on Patreon that I'm slowly working my way through. So I just wanted to say thanks to the people over there that have came and signed up and are enjoying that extra content. There's actually 2 chat functions over there as well, which we're just having regular comms back and forth. So the new subscribers are actively telling me about their stock and their concerns about the stock market with the wars going on and everything else. So I'm really enjoying that interaction. Right. Let me tell you a little kind of a little bit of a tale of somebody who reached out to me a couple of days ago. When I was working in London, right, and the reason this kind of sprung into my mind was there was somebody on the stream last week that was telling me about their housing situation in London, that they were sharing an apartment and it was like £1,200 a month, their share, right? I was thinking, God, that cost a living. And then out of the blue, right, I worked in London for just close to 5 years, right? And I was commuting from Northampton back and forth, and I've talked about the train tickets. This week, I made a video on Instagram talking about the trains and talking about it was like £7,300 for a train from Northampton to London, Euston. And then if you had to take the tube, the price of that train, including the underground, went up to 8,600 quid, plus another 3,300 to park your car at the train station in Northampton. I made a little reel on Instagram about that and put it out. And I asked people in the comments, right, tell me a little bit about your own costs. And somebody messaged me and they were telling me that they were traveling to Cambridge and the annual ticket to go to Cambridge was over 10,000 quid on the train. Right. And I was just like, and do you know what's mad about this stuff, right? Making content like this, right? I mean, it pisses people off when you talk about some of this stuff and see the number of people that were like defending the price of the train tickets. I'm like, do you work for the is it North Midland or Northeastern Midland or whatever the name of the company is now that does the train from Northampton? Right. And where did I get to with all of that? Right. It was making me think about London, and Yvonne and I were very close to moving to London at one point. We were going to relocate into the city, and I'm so glad I didn't. Again, somebody in the messages was kind of, pushing across their side, but think about how much money you saved in rent by living in Northampton and then taking the train. And I'm like, do you think the rent is like somehow incredibly cheaper compared to London? It's not, because Northampton's like a satellite town to London. People who can't afford to be in London live there and then have to pay the 7,300 quid a year. I was earning quite well when I was working in London. I cycled to the train station to save the 3,000 quid. I would ride in the pissing rain in the morning, waterproofs on and all that, just to not park the car. Because I'm like, it's like 3.5 grand a year, right? So from all of that, right, weaving this story in, when I was working in London, I was head of sales in British Gas, the Hive department, right, smart thermostat department. And I was working with this girl called her name's Bianca, right? And I was working with this girl. She's like she was she messaged me and she was telling me she's 36 years old now. She's gonna be 37. She's gonna be 37. I think she might be even in this chat, right? So oh, she is in this chat. Hello, Bianca. Lovely to have you here, right? Now, I worked with Bianca, and then the company was going through redundancies, and it looked like Bianca's role was going to be going. And I worked with her, and she ended up staying for a little while. And then she's gone out of the company right now. I follow her on Instagram, so I kind of see what she's getting up to. It's like entrepreneurial young mum, right? Got a young daughter who's like 8 years old. And she messaged me during the week and she was asking me, fired a question to me, right? Just, out the blue. And she was like, would you have done the things that you've done at an earlier age? Like, do you think about like moving out of the UK and doing this life or just getting out and going living wherever, right? Would you have done it at an earlier age? And I was like, hey, Nick, how you doing? Nice to see you here. Kyle, welcome. I'm catching up with the names here. Thanks for joining us, folks. Adash, welcome. Hopefully I've not missed anybody else. If you have, stick your name in and I'll give you a shout out. So this question came in, right? And I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting question. And so I was answering that by saying, like, I couldn't have thought of leaving the UK at an earlier stage because I had to have the big trigger moments, like the big life moments, right? And those folk that have been here since the beginning, right? For me, that was like the trifecta. It was starting 2024 with my own ill health, which was having ECGs, thought I was having a heart attack, was having pains in my left arm, didn't know if it was like stress, like all that kind of stuff, right? And just feeling like, first time in my life, kind of feeling like, what if something happens? What if you just, like you just take unwell, right? I used to do a lot of like long distance cycling. Now, I was diagnosed with having myocarditis at the beginning of 2024. So I had a short period off of work, right? A couple of, I think about a month. I was going to say a couple of weeks, but I think it was about a month at the beginning of the year to just take it down a peg or two. Start of the year, high pressure job, sales, thinking about the new year, running a team, all of that, right? So I had a month out. And then obviously the next part was May, my dad passing away, which was like big moment, right? And as I've mentioned, I was raised by, my dad was a single parent. My mum left when I was like 7 or 8. So no relationship there. My dad, single parent, working man, like getting out and getting on with it. But I used to work in British Steel, worked in Schweppes, which was Coca-Cola, and then was a school Janny, right? Like blue collar jobs, right? Grafted to give you like anything, right? And I always respected that work ethic. And so then he passes, right? And then you go back to work, and then comes redundancy, right? So that was like the triple header of what am I doing? Like why am I just grinding away for all of this? And then there was all the the bits that sit on the outskirts of all of that, which is, well, redundancies came around now. You're going to find another job, and being pissed off with like tax in the UK and feeling like you're like, I mean, at that point, right, I've talked about this in videos, so there's no secrets, right? I was earning like 100, at one point 140, at the very end, 148K, and then with a bit of a bonus on top, right? And then everything like tax and everything else, your council tax going up, and just being like, you should feel at that point like you're comfortable, but it never really felt like that. It never really felt like comfortable. It felt like a hamster wheel, right? And I say that having gone through all of the stages to get to there, right? And I couldn't even think now about like going back to like living on nothing. However, I do now live on nothing, but I've changed my environment to live on nothing. But those were like the three big things, right? That were like, that happened in order to like finally push me over the limit to want to do something else, right? To just be like, right, how can we live somewhere else? And so now, again, mentioned in videos, my average cost of living in the UK at the end, right? And obviously, you adjust to your means. You're bringing in a salary. You're living in we moved from a one-bedroom flat in Scotland to a nice house in England. We had a car, company car, right? You get to that status, but I no longer wanted any of that. I just didn't want that life. And so then we sell everything. And now we live out of like two suitcases, and I don't miss anything. Like, I don't miss stuff. We in 5 days' time, we will have been gone from the UK for 6 months. And I don't think about anything that we sold. I don't think about the house. Yvonne was asking me yesterday, like, I've got like I've got about 8 to 10 days worth of clothes, and I just live in 3 or 4 days. And Yvonne's like, we wash stuff, and I go to the gym and then I change my clothes. And I don't think, and Yvonne was saying, are you feeling it boring wearing the same clothes? And I'm like, no, it's one thing that I just no longer care about. I just no longer think about, right? So I don't miss any of the stuff coming up for 6 months. Haven't thought about it. Now, dead easy to just be like, oh, British guy leaves the country for 6 months and has an epiphany, right? I've had all of that in the comments from people and through Instagram and everything, like, oh, you've only been out of the country for 6 months, you'll be back. Like, I've heard all of that, right? And the only thing I can say to that is you have to start somewhere. Like, it must be awesome for people in comments who can just go to the end of things and just be a master at something, like, you'll do this, you'll be that, that'll be like, for nobody to ever start at the beginning of something and have to work your way towards another end to just be awesome and be at the end. It must be great, right? But I live in the reality, you've got to start somewhere. And I felt like we've started somewhere. Where does the conversation with Bianca come in, right, to draw that back? So we've now left the companies we were at. She's gone off doing some entrepreneurial stuff at a new job, messages me, would you have considered doing this before? And I mentioned the three things, and we get chatting about it. And then she says to me, yeah, I've kind of reached that point. She's bought a flat that she's renting out. She's got a home that she's living in with her daughter. She's got a job. She's trying to build a bit of income on the side, and just feeling like it's like a real uphill battle, right? Because of costs and everything else. And then came the kicker, right? Like a mini stroke. A mini stroke at 36. And then talking to our company and asking to kind of downsize the hours, and the company's like, no, it's a full-time job. And just being like, whoa, whoa, just now you either have to carry on doing the job, and just the feedback that we were chatting back and forth about was like, trying to figure out whether you carry on that hamster wheel or whether you try and do something else. Now, I'm not saying that for everybody it's like leave the UK and do whatever, right? But for the people that I generally talk to, the people that reach out and we talk on one-to-ones or email me or whatever, right? The kind of quiet ones that watch this channel that are just quietly dissatisfied with how they feel about work, life, and are just thinking about a different way. The part that I was kind of thinking about that with was like, only you are ever going to know when you've kind of reached a point of going, I want to try something different, right? I read so much in the comments from people who are like, but what about this? But what about that, right? Like, like I read one a couple of days ago, could be anything, right? But, how would a vegan get on in that country? What about, what I would be worried about the banks, and one that I hear all the time. Won't be that when you fall ill. I mean, that's people who don't know like this story, right? Won't be that until you fall ill. You're going to need, you'll be back for the NHS, right? I mean, 6 months out the country, still waiting on that NHS appointment. Called last week, haven't called back. Things will happen. Things will come up, and you're just going to have to deal with it the exact same way as they come up when you're at home, when you're in the UK, right? Your car needs an MOT, suddenly something's wrong with it. Like, all of those things happen regardless of where you're at. But for me, like, just this point of like living for 4 or 5 grand a month in the UK, and then suddenly living for like £1,500, and the quality of the shift of life. And for those that watched yesterday's video, when I just mentioned, there's just been like a kind of quiet that's came across. Again, like, I need to kind of stress this, right? I'm not a travel channel. Like, I'm not living in Malaysia or going to Thailand to be like, look at this beach, everybody. It's beautiful. Look at this cave. Like, I'm just not trying to live like that. I'm just trying to live. Like, I spent 30 years flying and driving all over the place doing sales. And now I'm just trying to relax. And like, my days are just so right now, quiet. Like, get up, have a coffee, go to the gym, go to the pool, relax for a little bit, come back to the room, go for lunch. Like, the mall is outside right now. To some people, the mall being outside the apartment block will be hell. I get that. To me, it's a never-ending smorgasbord of places to go and eat for cheap. Like, we went out for dinner tonight, or lunch, right? Went to this place, had a beautiful big Caesar salad. Yvonne had a chicken salad. We had chicken satay to start. We had some nice cold coffees on the side. We had a little pudding at the end, and it was like £13. When we go to the shops, the supermarket, we spend more than that. And I'm like to Yvonne, why do we not just eat out every night? So, I mean, obviously sometimes you can't be bothered. But yeah, so, when I got that message, and I've been chatting back and forth with Bianca, and it's, I speak to people who are like, I'm preparing and I'm preparing and I'm preparing. Sometimes I feel like some people will prepare forever. Like, there will always be a reason not to do something. I'm not trying to give you a sales pitch to like leave. I'm just saying, like, in my mind, I hit a point where I was like, right, we're making this happen. It's full steam ahead. And there was like nothing that was kind of going to stand in the way, right? And we've left family behind. We've left friends behind. We've all of that kind of that happens when you move away. But for us, just finding the kind of peace and eventually the relaxation out of all of this has just been, I've never felt more calmer and healthier at this point than I do right now. Now, again, I'm Scottish, right? So you're always like, what's coming down the road now? What's coming next? There's got to be something, right? But for now, just feels quite calm. So I thought I would just tell that little message, because Bianca's in here, and you can prepare so much for things. You got an apartment, you got a house, you got revenue streams, you are entrepreneurial, creating businesses. And if you can do that online, I'll tell you, right, see, when I put the post up about living in Malaysia and the council tax last week on Instagram, I mean, people were like that to me in the comments. It's a bit of a long commute, or how much money is the average salary in Malaysia? Like, for some people, they can't process that if you live somewhere, you don't necessarily have to earn money in that place. Like, I didn't move to Malaysia to take a Malaysian job. I came here to kind of retire, and then I've built something out of it, because then I'm like, oh, I could do this and I could do that. And it's given me the inspiration to kind of do things. But then you're earning online, right? And again, that won't be for everybody, right? If you're a plumber or an electrician, you're like, what am I going to do there, John? Like, if the shoe doesn't fit, stop trying to make it fit, right? If this scenario is not for you, then I appreciate that. But for people that can, like, if you can make something online. I was talking to somebody recently who's a retired teacher and now does lessons online. And just that's how they're now living out in Southeast Asia, doing teaching online, right? Language courses, teaching, mathematics, marketing, any of those things that you can turn into a little business that you can do online. And here's the plus point, right? Not to continue selling this, but there is no tax here for foreigners who earn online internationally. Say that a different way. For me, for example, when I earn from YouTube, you guys watching, or you sign up to Patreon, or you buy a PDF document that I've created, I don't pay any tax on that. I've left the UK. I'm compliant with everything that I need to go through with HMRC. But from the Malaysian government here, there is no tax on my international earnings. So that is a massive uptick for living in another area, because again, it means that income that you're bringing in, government's not taking 20, 45, 50% of it before you even get started. Now, again, it's like, then I get the question about the cost of living, right? There is so much abundance of apartments here. This building that Yvonne and I in is 39 floors in total, filled with apartments. And when we get in, we see people coming to, we were in the lift yesterday. There was a young couple with an estate agent coming to look at an apartment, talking about renting it for either 1 or 2 years and asking for a discount for 2 years. I was listening to the conversation, like, how much are you paying for a year rental or 2 years rental? And the woman didn't want to say because we were in the lift. We're renting it as a holiday property from booking.com, but people live here. The floor that we're on, people live here, right? And there is an abundance, and there are new apartments getting built constantly. I would not be interested in buying a property here. That's just not even in my wavelength. But renting it, and renting it cheap, right? 290 quid last month. Different building this month, 340 quid, with electricity, internet, TV, 2 swimming pools, gym, jacuzzi, 2 shops, and the mall next door. I get it. Some people will be like, "Oh, that sounds like hell. I would need a park." Beautiful green city, Malaysia, and Petaling Jaya, and also Kuala Lumpur. Right, let me have a little look. Yeah, but YouTube takes its cut. Yep, I mean, everybody wants their fingers in the pie, right? Everybody wants a slice. Now, that's what's been great about Patreon, because it massively supports a bit of income for me, and Patreon takes a tiny little bit. And so, for people that come over there to watch the extra videos and request specific content, when I make that, I'm only given, I think it's about 5% or something that Patreon takes. So when somebody subscribes, they're basically subscribing to me, and then they ask for something to be made. I make it, and then I get the outcome from it, and I can make it. I think I've done like 3 videos or something so far this week. But yes, when I make videos on YouTube and it gets 500 views, I get a few pennies. And if it does thousands of views, I get a bit more, and YouTube takes 45% of that. But it could be 45%, and then over and above it, then also paying tax. Now, again, like, people asked me about tax last year. I didn't make enough. I didn't have a job last year, so I didn't make enough to hit the tax threshold by the time we had left. So when I do my self-assessment in a few weeks' time and submit it, there's no tax to be taken from my earnings from YouTube. I only made 8,000 quid last year. So what's the total? 12 grand. But yeah, I mean, everybody wants their slice, right? Everybody wants their slice. Let me flick through. Pucker Prince, you're living the dream. Well, look, it has its ups and downs, right? I mean, some days it rains. But if you can make money online, I know that's what everybody says, right? Just make money online. But how do you do that? That's the $1 million question. And if you had asked me 18 months ago, would I be making money on YouTube with a channel? I would have laughed. It wasn't in my wasn't in my vision at that point to do this. It started because I needed something from the redundancy. The redundancy had to happen to kind of push me into that. And I'm not saying everybody should start a channel, but when you have those kind of moments, right, where, and I reference Bianca, 36 and having a mini stroke, and now suddenly is like, yeah, I mean, not a small daughter, thinking about, do you keep pushing super hard to sustain a lifestyle of living in London? I don't know, like 2,000 quid a month rent or mortgage, or 1,500 quid, and then council tax and water charges and 200 quid for gas and electricity and 50 for your internet and all of that, right? And suddenly you're spending, like we were, living cheap in Northampton for 4,500 quid a month. And it's not like, I mean, I didn't feel like I was a baller or anything. I didn't feel like I was like, oh, look at us, we're flash every month. I was just like, God, the cost of everything's wild. And so, and again, you know, I then also think, like, and I messaged Bianca tonight, and I was like, everything doesn't have to be permanent. You could just try something, and you can always pivot to something else. That's what I've kept trying to state in some of these videos, where it's like, you know, for us, like, if something changes, we'll think about something else, right? Oh, that sounds like you're going to go back to the UK. That's what people love to mention to me. That sounds like you're already thinking about going back to the UK. People want definitives, right? That's the people that are messaging you going, I need to have this, and this in place before I can do this. And I just think, see, by the time you get them, you'll find that one. And that's like, that's just the differences in people, isn't it? Kyle, it was 340 quid for a month's season ticket to Edinburgh, Glasgow. And it's a painful journey, isn't it? It's like 45, 50 minutes. A good friend of mine lives in Stirling, so I've taken that train a few times. He used to live in East Kilbride, where I was from, and he would commute from Glasgow to Edinburgh for a job he had over there at Standard Life. And I just remember him telling me about the hell of it all. I mean, see that Northampton train, right? It's 59 minutes. It's 59 minutes down the road, and it's £80 a day, plus £12 to park your car, right? 92 quid a day to go to work. And then you get there, and then you just sit on Zoom calls with like the office, right? Because nobody wants to come to meetings. 92 quid a day to go to work, can't get a seat, having to do the old sharp elbows to get on the train on the way home. Or you get to Euston Station and like, cancelled tonight because some poor soul is like, I've had enough, and then done the old front of the trains, and then all the trains are off, right? You're like, they've whole of Euston